call the North Smithfield School Committee meeting of February 15, 2022 to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Lombardi.
Present.
Mrs. Mayo. Here. Mrs. Vada. Marked absent. Mr. Connell.
Mr. Connell did call me and just mentioned to me that he's up at the State House at a meeting, so he's going to try to attend a little later on.
Okay. And Mr. Jones.
Here. We have 3 present. We have a quorum. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record reflect that the spotter is here. Okay, so again, Ms. Pacchetti's here. Is anyone else? Would anyone else like to speak? Ms. Pacchetti, would you like to start?
Yes. Hi, I'm Cala Pacchetti. I'm a senior at North Smithfield High School. And for my senior project, I'm reviving the Northman 5K. So it'll take place on Saturday, April 30th at 9 a.m. It's going to begin and end at the Veterans Memorial Stadium, also known as our track or our turf. I'm planning this as my senior project to aid Operation Stand Down Rhode Island, which is it's a nonprofit which supports veterans in Rhode Island. It helps homeless and at-risk veterans. And so I'm seeking your support, and I just wanted to bring awareness to my project. And it will be taking place, as I had said, on April 30th at 9 a.m. So I was just bringing awareness, and if anyone has any questions, you can reach me at my school email, which is 107161@northsmithfieldschools.com.
Ms. Pacchetti, thank you very much. Great project.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on Zoom wish to speak? Hearing none, I'll move on to public comments. Ms. Gianfrancisco. So may I ask approximately how long do you expect to be? So if we do 4 minutes for everyone, is that okay? Is that okay? Or I want to be clear. Okay, thank you. One.
Good evening, school committee members. My name is Deborah Gianfrancesco. I am a resident of North Smithfield and have a son that currently attends the middle school. I'd like to start by thanking you for implementing the parents' right to choose for the masking in schools. What I would also like to address tonight is age inappropriate books available to our children in the school libraries. I checked the website and they are currently on the shelves, some checked out. I will read the names of the books and inappropriate lines from these books. This is not meant for children's ears, so I would recommend to parents in Zoom or in the audience to remove the children from the room.
Okay, let me just hold up. These are books that are
in the high school and the middle school and the elementary.
Go ahead.
Are we okay? Okay. So the names of the book: Beloved, Two Boys Kissing, The One Summer, 13 Reasons, The Hate You, The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, 19 Minutes, More Happy Than Not, Extremely Loud, Drama, Tricks, Fly on the Wall, Sloppy First, The Truth About Alice. I did check. I will tell you that Drama is about homosexuality. There's one available in the high school. There are 4 available in the elementary school and 2 in the middle school. One of them is checked out at the elementary school, which means a child under 10 has a book about homosexuality. 2 in the middle school. Under 10 is definitely inappropriate. to be talking about any of those subjects. I don't know how other parents feel. I find it to be completely inappropriate. Beloved, on page 10, here's some of what it says. I'll try to keep some of it out. It took her a year to choose a long, tough year of thrashing on pallets, eaten up with dreams of her, a year of yearning when rape seemed the solitary gift of life. The Kite Runner, page 7. I knew your mother. Did you know that? I knew her real good. I took her from behind by the creek over there. This is also about, and that's just one line, I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is also about homosexual rape. The child does get raped in this book. And it's very graphic. The One Summer. Hey, Sarah, was it you who said that sperm can live for like 3 weeks in your, and then it just goes on, a lot of swear words, a lot of, they mention blowjobs, everything else in that book. Again, very disgusting, very inappropriate for schools. The absolute true diary of a part-time Indian. I spent hours in the bathroom with a magazine that has 1,000 pictures of naked movie stars. Yep, that's right. I admit I masturbate. I don't think you should run through life with a real erect penis. Just again, some lines in some of the books. I don't want to get into too much more detail. 19 minutes. Now she felt his hands moving up her t-shirt, slipping beneath the lace of her bra. Her legs tangled with his. He rubbed up against her. More happy than not. They're talking about how to get a girl wet with only their fingers. It gets worse. I'm not going to read all of it. Extremely loud. The actress is getting a blowjob from her normal boyfriend. He spreads her legs, his palms pressed gently. These are actually, to me, they would be more of a porn book than they would anything else. More of adult tricks. I totally wanted to pop your cherry. Again, goes into more detail. Sloppy first. Rob's recent claim to fame is that he celebrated an away game victory by persuading a freshman cheerleader to hide under his Seagulls varsity jacket. And he went and said a few more things that I'm not going to repeat. The truth about Alice, mark my words, man, Brandon said, that dude is never going to get any blank ever. Again, goes into more details after that. And 13 reasons why. Hannah took off her shirt and let Justin put his hands up her bra. She came over to the table at lunch, whispered the proposition in my ear, and I had a hot on for the rest of the day. Now, I don't know who's in charge of the books choices or the library, but I would not want my son to have access to any of these books, any of them. Or, and I know a lot of other parents wouldn't want their child to have access to these books. Like I said, I did go on the website and I went into where they check the books out, and it tells you whether they have it available in the school, whether it's been checked out. So the one about homosexuality, there is 2 elementary children that have that checked out. I don't think that's age appropriate. So that was my,
Francisco, thank
you're
you.
welcome. And I have any of the documentation if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ramos? Let the record reflect that Mr. Connell was here. Thank you, Jim.
Good evening, Ariana Ramos, 40 Main Street, North Smithfield. I have a junior in high school and hopefully a kindergartner next year. First, I want to start by saying thank you to the school committee and superintendent for announcing the support of parental choice around student masking. This is a step in a very positive direction for our children's mental and physical health. And I just wanted to share my appreciation in this decision. Children's health and mental well-being is of utmost importance to all of us. I have no doubt that you all share this with me. Therefore, I'm sure we can all agree it is our duty to protect and nurture them as best as we can until they can protect themselves. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24 and has been increasing every year since 2007, only to be exacerbated ever since 2020 due to isolation, distancing, desolation, and fear during the pandemic, according to UC Davis Health adolescent medicine physician Laura Kester. In addition to pornographic, sexually abusive, lewd, and obscene books found in our library, books that have been described by child psychologists and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention as glorifying teen suicide, self-harm, and triggering suicide ideation have also been found. To reference only a couple found, 13 Reasons Why was a book turned into a Netflix series a couple years ago about a teenager who committed suicide and left tapes behind listing each reason why. CNN had published an article in 2019 about an undeniable spike in male teen suicides shortly after this series had aired. Health professionals are attributing it to glamorizing suicide in teens. By the time you read this, I'll Be Dead is another title about how a teen girl who had attempted suicide, it failed multiple times, then finds a website for completers that teaches her how to kill herself. This was a book child psychologists have warned as having triggering content that includes details about how a person can commit suicide. I don't know how these books have made it into our libraries, onto our shelves for our children to access, but it's alarming to say the least. I would like to know how this happened and see what actions are going to be taken to address this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Galano?
I'm gonna keep it pretty simple tonight. Again, thank you, Jim, for being the only one out of everybody here to immediately come out and say what the plan was for masking. Thank you, everybody else, for following Jim. I appreciate that. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I just want to piggyback real quick. Does anybody understand the severity of what these women just read? Anybody here? Can I ask a question? Is anybody going to answer? Will everybody stare at me when I ask the question? Because I won't ask it if I'm not going to get an answer. But are we going to do something about this, or is this going to continue to grow? Anybody? Does anybody know how these books get in the library? Just wondering.
I don't, Greg, let me just say this, that after the I believe there was a question raised about a book in a library, and after that I did ask the superintendent to review them.
Sure.
So I expect that we will have a report on this, yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. What I did come to ask tonight, I would like an honest understanding of the $1 million that was given to the school system for masking our kids for the last 2 years. That's great that we got that money for torturing them, but I'd like to know, is there going to be any oversight on this money? Is there going to be an agenda added to any sort of meeting that the town is going to be able to offer ideas, recommendations? Can we have some sort of fresh air initiative? I know this is COVID related money, whatever that means, or however you're going to use that to mitigate a problem that's not here anymore. What are we doing with this money? And is there going to be oversight? Who's controlling it? How's it going to get done? And I see the town council meeting as a place to do that, the joint meeting. I know Paul, he's busy doing stuff, so he can't be there tomorrow night. So it's going to get pushed aside. But that would probably be a good place to initiate conversation with that. So I'd like it to be added to the agenda. I'm not sure why anybody would have an objection, but is that something we've thought about, or did you guys just think nobody was going to care?
So Greg, again, we just one of the things, first of all, it will be on the website. If it's not already there, I know generally it may be there. I talked to the deputy superintendent. who I asked her if she could download whatever we have spent and whatever we applied for, put it on the website. We don't get involved in the actual applications or anything. We allow the administration to do that.
So what is the money? Where can it go? What can it be used for? What are the regulations to use the money?
So I think that's for another day. I don't want to.
Well, that's why I'm not expecting you to answer me
Sure.
today. I'm expecting it to be
We
put
can-
onto an agenda so the town can hear.
Absolutely.
Is that something that we can actually do, or?
Yes,
And again, the town council meeting would probably be a great place to
yes.
sneak that on. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Lombardi, do you want me to give like something brief or wait to another meeting?
If you want to say something brief that puts, that helps, then that would be great. Very brief though, if that's okay.
So the funds are called ESSER funds, so it's like the Elementary and Secondary Education Relief Act. So we don't just get the money, we have to apply for the funds, and we're told what categories they should be spent on. So it should be for intervention and supports for students that, of what they've been through with COVID. And so we have the categories. For ESSER III, I'm going to be doing, it's on actually in the superintendent's report today. I'm just going to go a brief overview. We talked about it a little bit last school committee, but we'll do it again today. We have submitted our application, but we haven't received anything yet. I will be updating the school committee as we go along. And during that report, I'll give a breakdown of what we're spending. Does that sound legit?
Thank you.
And there, and then on our website, we do, with each application, we have to write a narrative. So we have questions that the Department of Ed asks us, and we have to have a narrative. So we have those questions and answers. But Mr. Lombardi did mention before the meeting that if we could get more specific details, like as far as the actual budget. Right now, it sits in the RIDE portal, but I'm sure we can make some spreadsheets and upload. Okay.
All right, thank you. Ms. Cardone.
Heather Cardone, 700 Council Road. I just would like to pass my minutes on to Anne Marie. I wasn't aware of the 4 minutes, but I'm not sure if 4 minutes will be enough for her.
Wait. Do you have something? Do you want to say anything?
I wanted to donate my minutes.
Okay. Mr. Savigny.
Joey Savigny, 1790 Ponto Road. I just wanted to thank you guys for implementing the unmasking the kids on March 4th. And like Heather, I'm going to give whatever minutes because we didn't know what the time frame was going to be to Anne Marie. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Ms. Amweg?
evening. My name is Anne Marie Amweg. I'm a 20-year resident of North Smithfield, native Rhode Islander. I have an extensive background in education, teaching across all grade levels and in administration. I'm very concerned about our schools. But before I begin, I want to thank the school committee because I read over all of your responsibilities, and they're pretty extensive. The time that you put in, and I'm sure that the stipend isn't making you rich. So thank you for trying for our community, even though we may disagree on some points. As I looked over your responsibilities, I wanted to pick out these 3 that have to do with communication, which communication is always a bugaboo, but we could do better. I quote from your policies that the school committee members will accept and encourage a variety of opinions from and communication with all parts of the community, establish and maintain procedural steps for resolving complaints and criticism of school affairs, recognize that the first and greatest concerns be the educational welfare of the students. When parents come before the school committee, they often have serious questions about the welfare of their children. Of course, they are emotional. Of course, they may be angry, but they aren't troublemakers. They're not terrorists. What they are is concerned about the welfare of their children. We all look around and can see that big government is failing us on many, many levels. And now we feel that our educational system has broken our trust. Parents' rights as the primary educators of their children in matters of faith and morals, as well as in making medical decisions, has been usurped. Political agendas are supported and even promoted in the schools. Just as the school committee is supposed to be neutral politically, so should teachers be, so should schools be, so should the materials in the schools be. Political agendas are supported and even promoted in our schools. We see that tonight we have a curriculum that makes available to students literature that is dark and bleak concerning suicide, books depicting deviant sexuality. If this material is acceptable, whoever's putting it out, I don't know. How low does the bar have to go before someone says stop? I would like to address masks, even though I appreciate that we are now going to have masks optional in our schools. But I want to look back at what it's done. Damage has been done to students with the mandates, the social distancing, the at-home learning. Medical schools teach doctors and nurses that those masks are supposed to come off after 20 minutes. They are supposed to be changed, but our children have these bacteria-ridden masks on. They have had day after day, all day, indoors and outdoors. The used masks have shown to carry yeast, fungus, strep pneumonia, black mold, and other pathogens. I have a citation for that if you want it. Teachers have been placed into the role of the mask police. Some students fear being shamed for not wearing them correctly or complaining about them. Some have even been told that they could be responsible for someone's death because it isn't up over the nose. This is for a virus that is 99.99% survivable by our children, and pretty close to that for adults, for average adults. We also learned that ESSER funds are given to schools that have enforced the mandates. We are asking, where are the funds going? And was it worth irreparable damage to our children to get these funds? I say this is a shameful trade-off. The whole virus contagion scare can come up again, and we cannot fail our children again. We must show good faith by putting in place reasonable guidelines and committing to holding to those. I do have a suggestion, since I'm criticizing communication, I would like to suggest possible help. If it were possible to have roundtable discussions, parents with the superintendent on a regular basis, then people who are afraid to come up here and speak could sit and be comfortable and express their needs and their concerns. And then the superintendent could take that to the school committee, present it at your meetings, so that people would hear that their concerns are being listened to. And we can never get everything we want, but at least we'll know that we're heard. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. And I didn't not recognize it, right? Okay. Yes. All right. If there's no objection, I know that Mr. Biragad, Council President Biragad is here, and he wanted to update us on the new concession stands and bathrooms at Turf Field Complex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. So I have good news tonight. After many, many months planning and trying to get DEM permits and all that stuff, we are finally ready to get started on the bathrooms and the concession stand up at the field. up at the football field and track. Everything's in place. There were issues along the way with capacity that we managed to work out. There were also issues along the way. Apparently, some of the chemical composition in the septic system wasn't quite right because the kids, believe it or not, the septic systems have to be used in order that they need waste in them to function properly. If they go without getting the natural waste in there, then they don't function the way they're supposed to. So during COVID, we were testing them and there was nobody in the schools. The waste wasn't being put in there. There was chemicals anyway. So that's all been taken care of. DEM is satisfied with all the paperwork. I just want to let you know, we have, as of today, they have their building permit to get started from the town. They have the DEM, all the DEM permits, all the DEM approvals, all the plans. All the vendors have been lined up and they're getting final quotes from all the vendors. The architectural drawings have all been stamped and approved by DEM. And we are looking for a groundbreaking around right by graduation time. Hopefully, everything stays on track. Now, what I would like to ask is, what did slow us down at one point was a lack of communication between the developer and the school department. Through no fault of anybody's, it's just that there was just a lack of communication. That slowed things down for about a month. So if you could help us out, what I would like to get is a set of keys to the gate and to the building and give that to the contractor so he can come and go as he pleases instead of trying to set up meetings and be at the gate at the right time. So I'll need a set of keys for the gate and the building. I will also like to ask if we could make arrangements to have what's inside the concession stand currently, have it all cleaned out. Because they're gonna go in there, they have to check out the electrical system, and then they're gonna start knocking the building down. We'd like to have a groundbreaking sometime in March and shoot for that building being ready to go to be used at graduation if everything goes according to plan. So I think that's good news. It's good for the whole town, it's good for everybody. Okay. And that's about it. So if anybody has any questions, I'd like to answer any questions anybody has, but this has been long overdue. I mean, skyscrapers have been built in less time. When this first came out, right from day one, it has been one hurdle after another, but we'll finally get there. And we'll be having a little ceremony for the groundbreaking in a few weeks.
That's great.
Mr. President, just to thank you for leading the charge from day one on this. We really appreciate
I appreciate that.
your thinking of the school department, a much needed upgrade over there. And thank you and the town for doing this.
Long overdue.
Long overdue.
I think now that we have bathrooms and a concession stand there, we can start hosting official events. A lot of schools were hesitant to come and have their students use porta johns, but now that we have the proper facilities, maybe we can start seeing a little more activity over there.
And in the best turf field south of Foxborough.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You couldn't do better if you had Foxborough Stadium. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yes.
Unless there's an objection, I'd like to go to North Smithfield's 150th anniversary year parade discussion vote or other action. And Mrs. Lombardi will be speaking on that.
Thank you. Good evening. I am here. I am on the North Smithfield Sesquicentennial or 150th Anniversary Parade Committee. And I would like to formally invite our school department to be a part of the parade and ask the school committee for your support of their efforts. The 150th Anniversary Parade is scheduled for May 7th with a May 13th rain date. This parade will look much different than our beloved Memorial Day parade that takes place each year. This parade will be approximately a 2-mile loop. It'll travel down 102, turn right onto Green Street, past the Kendall Dean Town Hall, and then turn right up to go up to Main Street and end at where the Brigado's Plaza is. We'll have music, police, fire, rescue, along with various talents and floats from all over New England. And we have some really cool talents coming in from different parts, different places. The parade committee has also invited surrounding towns to participate, as many towns around us have an interest in the historical significance of the 150th anniversary of our town. I met with Mr. St. Jean last week to discuss some of sorry. She misses you, Jim. All right. I met with Mr. St. Jean last week to discuss some of the great talent in our schools and how we can showcase that through our parade. We'd love to see each school participate with a float of some sort and invite different departments, classes, organizations to be a part of it as well. Mr. St. Jean was fully supportive and offered some great ideas on how the schools could potentially participate. We'll be meeting again in a few weeks to finalize what that will look like. But really, we want to open it up to anyone in town that has an organization or a business. But really, the schools, I think we have just some great programs and some really cool things that I envision could be a part of this parade. So I really encourage people to take advantage of that. So I'm excited to see what the school department comes up with for the parade, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. And do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay. That was for informational purposes, Mrs. Lombardi.
Yes, just for informational purposes. We don't need, no financial support or anything like that, but really just to kind of help us to encourage people within the schools, students and faculty to, again, to take advantage of this great opportunity.
Thank you.
Won't happen again for another 50 years. Of the 200th parade.
Are we looking for this? Kind of a vote on this?
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, item number 2. Anybody have any questions in regards to any item on here? Does anybody want to take anything off? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented. So motion been made. Is there a second? Seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Comment on the exception. Very well. Including representative of all bodies. It was very. Did a great job as always, and I thought there's a lot of them, and they get stronger and stronger. And I think they'll be I think it's on the agenda. I think they're going to do very well this year. So glad to see they will, and glad to see they will go this year, because I know Chromebook was canceled because of COVID, but looks like they're going to be in person this year. I'm not canceled, it's virtual. I think they're going this year. I'm glad to see that.
Thank you. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair Lombardi. So the report, actually, it's very timely because it's about the ESSER III application. And so the ESSER funds are the Elementary and Secondary Education Relief Act. The funding is to help ensure that districts and schools can continue to operate safely, support sustained access to in-person instruction, address the social, emotional, mental health, and academic needs of students due to the impact of COVID-19. So that's the purpose of the funds. And so for what we did for the for the ESSER III application was we started with, as far as getting some input, is we wanted at that broad brush. So we sent out a survey to families and to teachers. We did get well over 300 responses. And it was very simple, so it was easy to take. It didn't take much time, but it was to identify our priorities. And once we had our priorities, we then took the results of that survey and brought it to our school improvement teams. And so I went to each school improvement team, shared the survey results, and then just had some conversations about where we are and where we're going. And honestly, those meetings were wonderful. I would have to say the folks on school improvement teams, that's a variety of folks, but it's administrators and teachers and some parents, and we also have at the high school level some students. And so it was like just great conversation to hear from a variety of stakeholders. And so we also met with the Professional Development Advisory Committee, we met with the administrative team, we met with teacher leader teams, and put it out there and developed our plan. And so our plan basically, as well as, so that was one part of that, but the other was analyzing our data. Where are we instructionally? How are our students doing academically? And where do we want, how can the data help us drive where the funds would go, especially for the academic interventions? And so, so from there, we wrote and submitted the plan. We have not gotten feedback from the Department of Ed yet. Once we do, a lot of times they'll send it back, they'll have questions, we have to then resubmit. So it's definitely a back and forth process. Once we do get a acceptance, the approval from the Department of Ed, we then will have until September of 2024 to spend the funds. And we aren't necessarily stuck with exactly what we wrote because things will change over time. So there will be an amendment period. So I'll give you an example. We had put some funds aside this year for transportation after school, stuff called the late bus, for clubs and activities for students to get transportation. Well, we had trouble with getting transportation because we were low on drivers, and it was all stemming from COVID. We couldn't actually expend those funds, so we don't lose the funds, we actually just amend the application. And so there will be amendment periods. I will give you a general rundown of the where we applied for the funds, and we have 2 years of summer enrichment programs. We always run ESY, which is our extended school year for students with special needs. This is an addition to that. So those would be an enrichment program, which we ran some enrichment programs last summer. And so we would like to do that for the next 2 years. And that's not necessarily for students that struggle. It could be for any student, and it could be a variety of things. As you know, at the high school, middle school, this past summer, we tried to offer things just to engage students because we were really worried about students being engaged back in school. But at the elementary level, we focused in on instruction. And so we had like reading and math supports and instruction. So those are the summer type programs for the next 2 years. We have funds set aside for high impact tutoring, and that would be used in a variety of ways. It was actually really interesting hearing from the students at the high school of what they wanted and what would work for them. And sometimes students said, I don't want to stay after school. After school, I'm just done, I'm exhausted. But if I could meet with a teacher at 7 o'clock at night via Zoom, I would like to do that. And so we thought that was a great idea. And so we're going to try to put a variety of programs out for students to meet their needs. So high impact tutoring for all 3 schools for the next 2 years. Building-based substitutes, and that's something that we've implemented this year and has helped us stay open. And because we've had staffing problems and with COVID quarantines, with all of it, we definitely had some staffing troubles, and our building-based subs has definitely helped us stay open. So we do have funds set aside for that. We also have a fund set aside for a teacher assistant for ELL, which is English language learners. We feel like our English language learners are a very vulnerable population, and we have one ELL teacher because although we don't have a huge number of English language learners, they are spread out between 3 buildings. And so to have a teacher assistant to assist some of our students that are struggling and need those extra supports. A chunk of the funds would be 2 years worth of math interventionist at the middle school level, and that is definitely a data-based decision. And so for interventions and supports at the middle school level, we do have math intervention, but we would like to add to that. We also put in for middle school, high school, student assistants, either counselors or student assistants teacher. And so this position would be one for the middle school, one for the high school, for for 2 years in a row. That's definitely a big chunk of the money or the funds, and the student assistance counselor. Once we get approval for the funds, then we would make the job description. But ideally, what we're looking for is a teacher or counselor that would start later and end later. So they'd come in later than the rest of the faculty, but they'd stay later. And so they could offer activities and supports daily after school for 180 days, and to really try to engage our students that are struggling socially and emotionally and just need some extra support. And it's not necessarily just counseling services. We were thinking the student assistance counselor could do, maybe it's on Thursdays, they do some type of club activity. So it's not just come in for a counseling session, but more just a way to engage our students after school. And we have teacher assistants at the elementary level for kindergarten and first grade. We are finding that the reading and students that are walking into schools or students just starting school, that's the area that we need. We don't necessarily need a certified teacher for that. We find that having a teacher assistant can work with students on sight words and reading extra texts. And let's see. We have some funds set aside for bus transportation, and that would be the late bus for after school hours for the elementary, middle, and high school, because we would like to run more clubs and programs and tutoring after school, but we know transportation can be an issue. And then also we wanted to balance it. And so these aren't really interventions and supports, but we wanted to balance some of the funds with funds that we know after COVID and even, 15 years from now, when students are reading about the pandemic in history, that we still have something to show for it. And so one of them is high school windows, and it wouldn't necessarily, the funds wouldn't necessarily replace all of the windows, but certainly would get us further on where we are with the high school window replacement project that we've been working on. And it definitely can align with the ESSER funds, because it is considered, let's see how we wrote this, by replacing it improves the ventilation. And so that was how we look at it. We have more description in the application, but it helps with the ventilation, and that high school cafeteria would be a priority. And the last one, and this was something that has been brought up, and I would say just a variety of times and areas and meetings, and that's the signage. And so we've been asked by the budget committee, I think folks maybe at the town council meeting last year, or like the joint meeting last year, and school committee is really folks have talked about and asked for electronic or digital signage at the high school that can just, something's happening, can be just updated and goes up there. So you're driving by and you can see exactly what's happening at the high school, and not what we currently have. And that's been something that we haven't had the funds for, but it might be because we're putting it under the umbrella of communication. And if this hasn't been approved yet, but we think we could possibly put it into the ESSER application. The students at the school improvement team actually brought that up to us during the school improvement team, that they would like the signage changed, and they think that to publicize what we're doing, how we're doing it, and keeping everyone updated, that would be a benefit. So that's where we stand with the ESSER III funds. Do you have, or application? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, the only thing that I'd like to say, so just for the purpose of the people here on Zoom. So you have 3 pools of money: ESSER I, ESSER II, ESSER III. ESSER I has been applied for and used, or the majority of it's used.
So SM1 is used. That was the first round of funds that we got. It was 182,000, and it was in the fiscal year 2020. we used those funds to purchase Chromebooks,
Okay.
mostly for the middle school.
And we had ESSER II,
That's the two we're working on now.
right? You're
Um,
spending now. That's been applied for, approved,
Yes,
and then right now we're in spending. So, and then ESSER III, which is an application.
that's it.
If it's at all possible, I think that for transparency, we should on the website have just those 3 blocks. Say what we use the money for, what we're using it for now, what we're applying for. That's something we can do.
Do you want a general update of like ESSER II, like this past summer when we ran the enrichment activities, that was all paid for by ESSER II. Currently have teacher assistants at the elementary school, that's ESSER II, a math interventionist at the middle school currently, and that's ESSER II. So we can definitely put that
Great.
in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, we can do that. Of course.
Just chair, Mr. Chair, the committee, and Superintendent Arnold, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, just to also to clarify, the people who we hire, the persons who are hired, the ESSER II funds, those are essentially, those are not, they're outside of our budget. They're temporary positions, or that is, so
So
these are,
they're not local funding, correct?
right, it's not, so I think those are outside of it, and of course, so those funds, those do run out at some point, so again, it's part of transparency, if people want to know what's going on with that, those people being hired, and again, the people we hire now with current ESSER funds may have another 2 years or so, is that the expected life in terms of how long that might last for them?
Correct. The funds, ESSER III has to be obligated by September 2024.
It's all gone by September 24.
Correct.
I would just like to say,
Absolutely.
this is on the website. If we put this on the website, ESSER I, ESSER II, and ESSER III, would you include the list of things that you just told us about for ESSER III?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was quite a list. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Right. We don't have it in a spreadsheet.
Right.
Simply, it's in the RIDE system, the
Exactly.
grant system, but that's something we can definitely.
So we could just say, potentially, this is what we would do. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Arnold, from you. Great. I thought I just heard someone, sorry. Moving on to item number 4, and this is for informational purposes. It's personnel resignations, retirements, leaves of absences, and appointments. Anybody have any questions? And this is for informational purposes. Moving on to old business, which is the fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23 budgets. Is there anything that needs to be updated?
No, the reports are in your packet.
Okay. And I know that the budget committee has reached out to us with a few dates, so we look forward to meeting with them. I know, and just for the record, the joint meeting tomorrow night, which I'm sure we would have went over some of these items, has been canceled. We'll come up with a new date soon. Is there any further business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.